Last week we looked at how to read in files, whereas this week we're looking at reading in files and then actually doing something with that data, well, editing it so it's not the same way as you read it in. So we'll go to the REPL team and we'll scroll right down to the bottom, and there's this, well, this week is reading editing files, as you can see, and we're going to start with read and double. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to briefly go over all of these. For this one I'm going to go over like line by line so you can follow along if you want. And then if you can do that one, this one isn't that much different, and then this one just kind of builds on from the previous two as well. So I'll start with read and double, and if you look at the task sheet here, what you've got to do is pick one of these subprograms, one of these functions from last week, which was one lets you read in a file of strings, just one column, one lets you read in a file of integers, and then one is for multiple columns of different data types. So have a think about which one's going to be best. As you can see, there's just one column of numbers, so you should be leaning towards the read integer file one. It's just going to read in one column of numbers. So the second task is, well, once you've read in those numbers, you have to double it. And then the last one is just to print it out, to make it in its own display procedure. You should be getting used to that, that everything that gets printed out should be passed to the same procedure, just at the end of the program. So, right, so task one, select the right function to read in the file. We're going to select this, so just Control C, and then Control D here, so underneath task one. Like I said, feel free to just follow along, pause the video if you need to, do it line by line. Can I make the font bigger, just in case? No, that's okay, it goes. Right, so this reads in a file of numbers. You need to make sure that you're reading in the correct file first. So the open here, we could change that so it's called numbers.txt, and just make it numbers.txt. Reads them in, gets a list of integers, and that's that. Right. Let's make sure that works. First of all, I'm just going to go print, and then guess. Oh, it's not going to work, is it yet? No, it's not. Never mind. Right. What I should, and it's not working because I haven't ran it yet. So we'll copy and paste this, and then if you go down to main program, and then the return bit, so we're going to copy this, and it goes on the left hand side, which is a bit strange, but well, you might think it's a bit strange, that's what you've got to do. So you say integer list equals, this is going to be the integer list in the main program. And now we don't want to call it integer list, we want to call it integer array, give it a slightly different name. Why is it still underlined? Oh, it's because of this bit, it's messing it up. We'll comment that out just to test it, and then just to make sure it's working, print. And I would recommend maybe just testing each function one at a time as well. Run that, there's the numbers, that's working fine. I can delete that. Okay, so the next task is just to double each number. So the first thing you want to do is traverse the array, which is, it's almost a standard algorithm because we use it so much. But to traverse an array, you have to think of what is he talking about. But once I start typing, it might look familiar, hopefully look familiar. So you go for I in range 0 to the length of the array that you want. So our array is going to be integer list, which reminds me we need to pass integer list down here. Otherwise this subprogram can't see it, remember. Don't forget the colon like I've done. And so it's going to go through, start at 0, then it's going to go around, be position 1, be position 2, and then so on and so on. Now we want to double each one, so we need to set the new value, and we have to overwrite it. So you could add it to a new array, but that's not what we're going to do. We're going to just edit the array itself. So to do that, you just write integer list, because that's what it's called, integer list position I, so originally it'll be 0, then it'll go on to 1, 2, blah blah blah. Integer list I equals itself, and then we're just going to do times 2. And that's it really. So it looks at, it'll be 1, it'll say overwrite position 0 as 1 times 2, and then it'll be overwrite it as 2 times 2, and so on. We need to return that, and we're going to return it as integer list again, and then down in the main program, I'll copy this here. We're actually going to call the method. Now remember, it's not called integer list down here, I've called it integer array, so it needs to be called integer array in the main program, because we can't see anything called integer list right now. It returns the new integer list, which means, I know it looks a bit weird, we're going to return the exact same thing here, which means we're overwriting it. If you don't like that, it's a bit confusing. What you could do is just give it a new name. So I'm going to call it new integer array, right? And then new integer array, well, we'll make sure it's working so far. We're going to, under here, I'm going to print out, sorry, that's the wrong place. We're going to print out new integer array. Run it. And there you go, it's doubled 2468. And then just so you know it's different, up here, I'm just going to make it integer array. So we'll see, this is the original and this is the new one. There you go, that's the original. I don't know if that's how easy that is to see, but it's 1, 2, so on, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. We don't need that for. And this isn't display, that's an easy cheat way. We need to do something a little bit more complicated. So we're going to delete this, and instead we're going to write display, and we're going to pass down new integer array to display, right? And then we'll uncomment this, ready to make it. Now you can call it integer list, you can call it new integer list, you can call it anything you want really, but we're passing down something called new integer list, which is just this bit here, the double numbers, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna do for I in range, this comes up a lot, the len of the array, so the length of the new integer list, and we're going to print them out one at a time. So print, and then you just write the name of the list, and square brackets needs to be square brackets, and if we run this, there you go, one line at a time. So just to recap, originally, I think it's on one screen. Originally, we read in the numbers file, this column here, and it reads it into one big array. Well, it reads them in as strings, and then this bit converts them into integers. It returns it down here. So the first thing, well, to be honest, you start at line 27. It runs all this stuff here, and it returns the array of numbers down here. Then it goes to line 28, and we get to, so we've got double it here, and what double it does, it will pass down the integer array, the numbers we just got to here, and it will do its thing, times everything by 2, and it will return it to the new integer array. Then, new integer arrays finally pass the display method, where really it's just like a fancy print, and we'll print them out one at a time. I just realised I don't have a mic strap to me, so that's okay. So, right, the other tasks, let's go down to the very bottom. Right, very similar. You have to pick one of the templates. By that I mean the reading in file code,
and then just change it a little bit for contestant scores. Now this is a bit different. Hint, there's 2 columns there. I wonder which one it could be that you need to pick. And we're not just reading it in, we're editing it, so you need to go through it, and if they get 100 points or more, get an additional 100 points. So you can see here, like this guy Winston's just a smart sounding name, he would obviously get the most points. He's got 400. We're going to give him a bonus 100 to bring up to 500. Whereas like Ainsley here, he wouldn't get the bonus 100. So when you run it, the final answer should look, so Ainsley scored 50, which is exactly the same, but you look at something like Winston and his scores went up by 100. There's not much difference from the last one, if I'm being honest. So if you look at, there's the code I did, it's really, you're reading it in, the reading in file method will be different because you're doing multiple columns this time, and this bit is going to be different in that, well, rather than times it's a plus, and rather than a 2 it's 100. You're just going to have an if statement at this point. That's really the only difference, right? The last task is, it's a little bit more, but it builds on what we've been looking at. So I have a file of cats here, so their name, their breed, and their age, and there's 5 things to do. First one is just reading the cat's text file. The second one is, so we're saying that there's a mistake in that all these cats that are Sphinx cats, those bald cats, are seen as too old by accident. So we need to lower their age by 10 years. So kind of similar to what we've been doing. Again, you'll need an if statement to make it just Sphinx cats. Then I've got a couple of additional bits, so we're actually doing something with the data once you have edited it. We're going to count how many Sphinx cats there are, and then we'll find the real oldest cat. So if you did a find maximum, the first time, without editing the data, it will say Abraham the cat is the oldest one at age 25. But the result you're looking for is, it should be this cat here, Penny the ragdoll cat. So there's what your answer should look like, your final one. You should have 4 functions and a procedure, 5 sub-programs, and the display one should print out, by the time you've done everything, it should print out all of the file, and then it's got counting occurrences. That's what task this one here was, and then it's also got the max cat as well, the max age that it's found. It looks a little bit much to begin with, but if you go through task 1 and task 2, it's not that much more. And these bits here, well, that's just what we did in week 1, and then, well, there's examples of that on week 1, and in your tracks booklet we've done loads of these before. It's really just putting everything together. Right, hopefully this video has been useful. Thanks for watching. Bye.